Hi everyone. So the last types of tissues that we're going to be talking about is muscle and nervous tissue. So we're going to start here with our muscle tissue. So looking at some functions, muscle tissue is primarily for movement here. So we have the ability to contract with the response of a stimuli. So that's usually nerve impulses telling our muscles to move. Some of these are voluntary and some are involuntary. And we're going to talk about those different types and how they do that. So we have three types of muscle tissue that we're going to be talking about. Our first here is skeletal muscle tissue. So this contains striations. So striations are just kind of lines that we're going to see within the tissue. And I'll be able to point that out in a second. We also see many nuclei present per cell. This is a voluntary muscle. So we can control our skeletal muscles to say, I want to lift my arm or I need to pick this up. It's us telling our brain that we want to do something and then performing that action. So, example here, our muscles are attached to our skeletal system, which is why it's called skeletal muscle. So we can see here with these large cells, we have multiple nuclei within. And if you can see, these striations are just kind of thin, very thin lines within our muscle tissue here. So our cells here are very long, unlike other cells that we've seen. So on a microscope, we can see it like this. We have one long cell here with those multiple nuclei. It's a little difficult to see striations, but we can see just a little bit if you look really closely along here. So this is our skeletal muscle tissue. Smooth muscle tissue. So in smooth muscle, we lack these lines. So that's going to be a big distinguisher when we're looking under the microscope. There's also a single nucleus present. And this is an involuntary muscle. So our smooth muscle are going to make up most of our digestive system and the stomach, intestines, things like that. So walls of our hollow organs, which are those organs involved in digestion. So we kind of see individual cells here, kind of elongated like that. We can see an individual cell right here with that one nucleus present, again, found in our digestive system here. So under the microscope, it kind of looks a little swirly, but to pick out one cell here, we can see that cell right there with our nucleus in the middle. So just remember, our smooth muscle is a little bit more swirly and less organized than our skeletal muscle. Our last muscle that we're going to talk about is cardiac muscle. So if you could guess, cardiac muscle is found in our heart, and that's the only location of this muscle. So this muscle is going to contain those striations. It also has intercalated discs, and I will show you what those look like in just a minute. It also has a single nucleus per cell, so that's something that we're going to use as a distinguisher between our cardiac and our skeletal muscle. And again, it is an involuntary muscle here, so that our heart is going to beat no matter what. We can't think something and have our heart stop beating, so it's going to continue to do that. So again, cardiac muscle in our heart. So as we look, we have kind of a branched cell structure here. So this right here in between our intercalated discs, this is going to be our one cell. You're going to see one nucleus in between our intercalated discs. So looking at more of a image here, these dark purple, those are intercalated discs. We can very clearly see striations on here with our one nucleus. So looking again, we can see these very light, it's a little bit darker pink here. Those are our intercalated discs, and we can see our nuclei present in there as well. So cardiac muscle, we're really going to be looking for those intercalated discs to make that distinguishing factor here. So moving on to nervous tissue. So nervous tissue, our functions here are going to transmit impulses for coordination, regulation of anything in our body, really big part in our feedback loops, integration, and sensory reception. So these are it's all about transmitting these impulses to do different functions within our body. So one nerve cell is going to be a neuron, but we also have neuroglia cells, or you can just call them glia cells, that support and nourish our neurons here. So looking at our different parts of our neuron here, we can see this is our cell body. Coming off of our cell body, you're going to see dendrites. Okay, and then we also have a cellular process, and this thick one is going to be an important one as well, because that leads to the other end of some nerve cells. And we can also see in this picture our neuroglia cells that again are helping nourish our neurons here. So looking at a microscope, we can see our nerve cell right here, our dendrites coming off, and then those little purple dots again are those neuroglial cells. Okay, so that's going to be our end of the tissue. Definitely be looking out for some lab practical type things. Go back and look at the microscope slides of each of these tissues. Become familiar with the standout things within each of these. Okay, if you have questions, make sure you ask, and I will see you soon.